Hey guys, it's Dr. Justin Marcagiani here. Today's video is going to be on simple ways to build muscle. We're going to be diving in on that. Muscle is really important. It's going to be something that, it's going to keep you functional. It's going to keep you strong. It's going to help you be active, help you perform as you get older. All kinds of correlation studies with more muscle mass, decreased cause of death, more muscle, healthier hormones, healthier testosterone, helps with insulin resistance, inflammation. So lots of good things when you have good muscle on board. Before we do, make sure you smash that like button. Really important. Give me a thumbs up. Put your comments down below and we can dive in. All right. If you're enjoying it, I really want to know what you think. So muscle is really important, right? Muscle is made from amino acids. Amino acids are the individual pearls on the pearl necklace called protein. So we need building blocks to help our muscles grow. Number one, we need stimulus to help our muscles grow. Number two. Okay, so we need to feed our muscles on one side. We need to stimulate our muscles on the front side. So, of course, resistance training is helpful. Now, there's a couple ways you can go about resistance training. You can do compound movements. Compound movements are movements that involve multi-joint stuff. This is good because compound movements help you from a functional standpoint. You have things like a squat, right? Squat, a deadlift. It could be something like a one-legged squat row, right? It could be something like a clean, a single arm clean push, right? These are movements that are involving multi-joints, arms, knees, shoulders, elbows, etc. And so you're getting a lot of good functional movement involved as well as stimulating the muscle. And then you have kind of more single joint, one or two movements like a dumbbell curl or a military press, right? Or leg extension. And so you can do some of these types of movements to really target muscles. The nice thing about single joint, one or two joint movements, you're not going to be quite as sore as you would as doing a front squat or a deadlift. So it's good to kind of mix in a couple of these. So I tell patients, choose a simple movement that's going to, I like circuits. Circuits are great because you can get a lot done fast. So I'll choose an upper, a lower, an upper, or a lower, upper, lower movement. So for instance, a lot of times I'll have set up my TRX where I'll do some kind of a row. I like to always balance out front and back. That's very important. So some kind of a row, some kind of a push movement. And I like the push-up bars that allow me to really go deep. Now, and so how I try to build muscle fast is I try to do a really fast concentric. That's the shortening of the muscle. So for a bench press, or for a push-up, or for a curl, it's the shortening. So for a curl example, it's this position, or for a push-up, it's this position. I like to be shorter here, and then I like to do a very slow eccentric. Think eccentric, elongate. And I find that the eccentric really helps you burn and rip up muscle, damage that muscle, and it allows you to do it very efficiently. So I'm a big fan of taking movements faster on the concentric, the shortening, very slow on the eccentric. So I'll go and do things like a bench press, push up fast, and then a very slow there. Same thing with the row in, and then very slow on the way back. And then I'll do more explosive movements like a kettlebell swing, right? I love things like a squat. You can do a squat or a deadlift, same kind of thing. That squat eccentric is going down low. I like it because you don't need a ton of weight, so you're less likely to hurt yourself, because where people hurt themselves is in the eccentric. Like, for instance, on a deadlift, they bounce down. When they go down, they bounce. Or a bench press, they bounce off their chest, right? Or the weight's just too heavy. And so it's hard to find a weight that's too heavy when you're doing a 4-second lower, because you really have to own that weight. And so I recommend doing 4-second concentrics are very helpful. And so some of the things that I'll do is a push or a pull, I'll combine front back. I'll do a hip extension, so kettlebell swing or a deadlift is great, or a front squat or a back squat is excellent. And then I'll also do single movement things. I'll do single movements like a military press, or I'll do a single arm military press, and I'll kind of go right from the ground. I'll pull it off the ground, bring it up here, and then go straight up, because then you're kind of doing a little bit of a deadlift and a little bit of a push. So if you combine movements like this back and forth, you get a really good kind of win. So I'll do something like a push, a pull, a bench, or a push-up with a push-up bar, and a row like a TRX kind of row, and I'll combine in a kettlebell. So upper, lower, upper. That's one that I'll do. I'll do a TRX a lot of times where I'll do a single leg squat, and I'll hold the TRX bands, do a single leg squat, and I'll combine that in between either a bicep curl or a pull up or a chin up, okay? And then I can also combine something like a Swiss ball sit up in between some kind of a dumbbell row or some kind of a tricep extension, which is excellent. And I'll throw in these same kind of movements with the band. So I'll use the X3 bar a lot too, and I'll throw in either a free weight or a band or a cable or a TRX, and I'll mix some of that up. And if you can get good 20-minute stimulus going, that's gonna be really helpful. And if you do the 4-second concentric, it's really gonna help. Now, post-workout and pre-workout, ideally I like to be at, depends on how heavy you're lifting, but probably at least a half a gram to 3/4 of a gram per pound per pound of body weight in grams. So I'm 210, 220 pounds, I'm 6'2", so I probably get between 150 to 200 grams of protein a day-ish, right around there. And it depends. The heavier I lift and the more I lift, the more I'm going to get more protein. The less I lift, I'll decrease the protein and go higher on fat because you need the amino acids to build up that muscle. And then carbohydrates, I tend to go lower carb. The more active I am, then I'll increase some safe starch, some sweet potato or white potato. I'll try to always go grain-free. I always get about 15,000 steps a day. So even when I'm sedentary, I'm still getting 15,000 steps a day. I'll try to, in between patients, do 3 to 5 sets a day of push-ups to failure with the 4-second concentric. And I love the push-up bar because people, man, they've really fudged push-ups. They come down to here and they're like this far off the ground, where the push-up bar, I can go to here. I can really get a full range of motion with that shoulder joint. So I like that. And then I'll do other kinds of movements throughout the day. So I do micro workouts. So I'll choose 2 to 3 movements, a couple of minutes, hit it, come back a little bit later, 2 to 3 movements, hit it. I'll do a lot of micro workouts. That's kind of how I do it. And then I do a lot of steps and keep my diet on point. Ideally, I like to kind of get back in the swing where I can go 30 minutes at a whack. I think that's a pretty ideal position. But if you don't have the time, pick out those 2 or 3 simple movements. Use that very good eccentric strategy where you're going slower to really help increase muscle breakdown. Really make sure amino acids are dialed in. You can always add in amino acids from a shake standpoint, whether it's a collagen or a whey protein or a pea protein, 20 or 30 grams at a wax. Excellent. And the harder you're working out, you can add things like BCAAs, which can help your workout. Creatine, help your workout. 10 grams of creatine, 15 to 20 grams on the BCAAs. You can do 20 or 30 grams of collagen. You can add in extra carbohydrates, whether it's a greener banana or some extra fruit or pineapple, to give you that little bit of an insulin spike post-workout. So if you're doing a heavier workout, getting that little bit of an insulin spike can really help open up your muscle cells and bring a whole bunch of amino acids and glucose in, which can really help your muscles grow. Insulin's very anabolic, right? It can be anabolic for your muscles, meaning muscles grow. It can also be anabolic to your fat and make your fat cells grow. So if you're trying to build muscle, make sure you're using the exercise stimulus with the insulin spike, so that way you're really synergizing the muscle growth. So again, this is Dr. J here, just kind of giving you some simple exercise strategies, some simple nutrition strategies to build muscle. Ideally, when you're lifting, try to go to failure. I like it because when you're doing a 4-second lower, it's really hard to hurt yourself because it's clear that you can't hold that 4 seconds. You kind of failed. If you're doing everything explosive all the time, it's very easy to get hurt. And so if you can no longer do that 4 seconds and now you're at 3 or 2, it's clear that you failed, right? You're at failure. And ideally, we want to keep the form perfect. And with that nice lowering phase that's nice and slow, it's harder to get away with the compensation pattern because you really have to own that lowering, and then it's clear that you are not in the right energy level. You're fatigued. You can't handle that muscle stimulus anymore. So again, this is Dr. J here. I hope you enjoy today's video. And again, combining this with like a Tabata or some kind of a peak 8, some kind of a high intensity 10, 20, 30 second intense sprint or bike. I get the rower. I like doing the rowing because you get some upper body, some lower body. You're putting yourself more in extension, which I like. A lot of the rowers and the bikes are kind of like in flexion, right? But with a rower, you get more in extension, where the bike or the elliptical, you're kind of more in flexion. So I like things that open me up and get more back work going. And then you can do some kind of a 20 or 30 second on, anywhere between a 10 to a minute, minute and a half off or rest. And I like some kind of a Tabata where you have 4 to 8 sets at a high intensity is very good. Let me dive into questions. If you guys want to dive deeper in with me, I always give my functional medicine patients some support on the exercise side. But if you want to dive in and reach in below, you can schedule a consult with myself if you want to dive in deeper on the exercise or nutrition or any other functional health solutions. All right, a couple of questions. Do HIIT workouts really burn a lot of calories the next day? Yeah. So you have what's called EPOC. You have your exercise, post-exercise oxygen consumption, and you're going to have an increase in caloric expenditure anywhere between a day to 2 days. And then you're also going to stimulate growth hormone more, which is going to really help grow muscle. And then muscle also burns more calories too. 64-year-old mom had 1 kidney removed and stopped HRT years ago. Cholesterol levels are 7.4. I'm going to keep it to the exercise questions today, guys. What type of training can we do when dealing with adrenal and gut inflammation? So yeah, try to do more slower movements and try to do more single joint stuff. You can bring in a multi-joint like a lunge or a deadlift or a squat, but try to keep the weight light. And it's all about frequency, intensity, duration. Frequency is how many times a week. Intensity is how difficult the movement is and how much rest between the exercise. And then duration is how long the workout is. And just try to adjust those so you always feel better after the workout. You can emotionally repeat the workout once your heart rates kind of come down and you feel stable. And then make sure you don't feel overly sore or hit by a bus the next day. And start there. Start with easier movements, more rest. And that's going to be a good first step for you. Calprotectin levels are high. What could be helpful in curbing this? My stomach is dialed in. Stomach becomes irritated after consuming veggies. I follow the AIP template. Yeah, so there's definitely something going on with the gut. So we have to follow the 6 R's. Remove the bad foods, replace enzymes and acids, repair the gut lining and hormones, remove the infections, repopulate good bacteria, retest. So we have to work to that full 6R. So take a look at maybe even going full carnivore, cutting out some of those veggies, making sure everything's pre-cooked, and really go through each of those 6 R's. Liz, hope that helps. Is it possible to build muscle not working out but having physically demanding job construction? Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. If you're physically doing things on the construction site, lifting, yeah, well, that is essentially the workout. Meanwhile, it's clearly losing muscle and suffering with weak immune system. So he may not be getting enough nutrition in. He may not be getting enough protein. If he's not eating enough and you put the stimulus to break muscles down and there's not enough building blocks to help repair, then yeah, you're going to definitely lose muscle. While working through the 6 years you do you recommend cardio starting, or is it a very specific case? So it depends on the cardio, right? So if you want to just do like some steady state cardio, that's cool, right? Keep it at a steady state, 20 minutes, fine. I like doing cardio that's more interval based. So it's going to be like a sprint for 10 to 30 seconds and then a rest between 10 seconds and a minute, minute and a half. So you can do the Tabata on one side, which is the 20-second high intensity, 10-second rest. Or you can do like a peak 8, which is like a 30-second on, a minute, minute and a half off. And something like that you can do in 8 to 15 minutes, and it really increases your metabolism. So something like that's very simple. And you can do that on its own separate workout day. And of course, just walking is also great. Any recommendations for keeping up energy? Yeah, well, exercise will help, but I mean, I would go look at any podcast on thyroid or adrenal health or mitochondria. What helps the adrenals challenge to feel good after a workout? Well, you're going to be stimulating growth hormone. You're going to be stimulating a little bit of cortisol. You're going to be stimulating some adrenaline, right? There's going to be thyroid hormone, hormone-sensitive lipase. There's a lot of energizing hormones, anabolic hormones that are going to be stimulated. And as long as you aren't breaking down so much that the repair mechanism is overwhelmed, whether it's mitochondria-wise, whether it's adrenal or thyroid-wise, you're going to feel pretty good. So that's a pretty good baseline, because if you're breaking down too much, your body is going to sense that, and it's going to downregulate energy systems, whether it's mitochondria, thyroid, adrenals. It's going to downregulate naturally to spare that breakdown. Calprotectin levels are 472. Yeah, that's a lot of gut inflammation. So you got to go through all those things we just talked about, Liz. What can one, and if you want to dial in deeper with me, feel free to reach out to me. We can dive in deeper on this. What can one do to help increase oxygen in the blood for someone whose energy is incredibly low after a workout, after work? Well, I mean, what do you mean low? So do we have like low iron where there's not enough iron and that's why the oxygen's low? Anytime there's inflammation will decrease oxygen in the blood typically because you're going to have inflammation, cells don't work well and flow or move well. You're going to also see more constriction. And so there's usually going to be less vasodilation, less oxygenation, right? Okay, very good. Finally booked with your office. Very excited to get better. Just want to apologize in advance. No problem. No worries. I'm really excited to work with you. What's the best way to lose weight? Long lessons on the treadmill and few HIIT work and long sessions on the treadmill or a few HIIT workouts. I would do more HIIT workouts in conjunction with some resistance training. And if you want to do like throw in some yoga or just some walks, that's cool. And then I would lean on keeping your carbohydrates a little bit more lower until you really feel like you hit the wall and then gently nudge up. Can adrenal fatigue affect protein digestion and assimilation? Yeah, it can, because the more your adrenals are stressed, the more that sympathetic nervous system is activated. When that sympathetic nervous system is activated, you're decreasing your digestive juices. Blood's going to the extremities, to the arms, the hands, and feet to fight and flee. So you really want to decrease that so you have better digestion. So good breathing, keeping stress under control, gratitude, taking digestive support, nasal breathing, all those things are very helpful. Whenever I exercise, I feel terrible the next day. I was doing Pilates, but quit due to fatigue. I also can't do cardio or I'll be down for the count. What can I do to remain active? So you got to find some level of exercise that you can do, whether it's walking or yoga. Just find something that you can do within the frequency, intensity, duration, and then you got to work with a good functional medicine doc to fix the diet, fix whatever else is going on underneath the hood. Something else is going on for sure that needs to be looked at. How long do people supplement with HCl before you wean them off? Anywhere between 3 to 6 months. I like to make sure they're infection-free, their digestion is doing well, and then I tend to move HCl to an as-needed kind of thing, like really a big meal, going out to eat, holidays, eating when stressed. If we're under control, we're eating good, we're not overly stressed when we eat, then I try to have patients start off by not doing the HCl and see how they do. And if they can do great, that's a good sign they're set. But I consider HCl like the low-hanging fruit that should be in everyone's functional medicine cabinet. Like if you're eating when you're stressed, or you're eating a really big meal, or it's the holidays, you're going out to eat, having a little bit of digestive support can be very helpful. Okay, very good. Would you recommend resistance training if not able to digest protein, as you may not be able to repair muscle after training? Yeah, you would have to adjust your stress on the muscles. If you're not getting enough protein, adjust that. I mean, you can always add some extra amino acids in that's powder form that will help, and see if that fills in the gap while you work on fixing the digestion. Once adrenal fatigue, can you walk at least, even tired if helpful? I mean, as long as you can start the workout and you don't feel worse than when you started, that's at least a good sign. But ideally, I want you to feel better. Walking after work, that is good. That's great. Thanks, Dr. J. That's super helpful. Much gratitude. You're totally welcome. I have no gallbladder, and I have to be on digestive enzymes for the rest of my life. Probably, if you have no gallbladder, you should definitely be on some extra enzymes and bile salts for fat digestion for sure. And then people that don't have a gallbladder, people forget your gallbladder produces bile. Bile is actually very antimicrobial. And so having really good spurts of bile is going to really help keep a lot of the bad bacteria under control. Now, you'll drip a lot of bile out the common hepatic bile duct, but it won't be as concentrated, right? The gallbladder concentrates bile 15 to 20x, and then it times it out. So you really want to make sure you have good digestion. You should be on good bile support probably forever. Hey, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Is HCl okay, H. pylori? As long as gastritis and your gut mucosa is not ripped up that much where taking it causes extra irritation, then it's probably okay. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, thumbs up, comment down below. Really appreciate it. Try to do one thing, get the protein up, get your digestion up, have a gentle exercise stimulus. Use some of the exercise hacks I talked about. Slow, eccentric. Do a combination of compound movements, multi-joint and single joint movements. Add in some high intensity or circuit where you do multiple movements back to back. Make sure you don't over-exercise. Adjust frequency, intensity, duration. Get amino acids in. Harder workouts, maybe a little bit of insulin from some extra carbs to help with that anabolic window and get more protein into the muscles. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. You guys take care. Bye, y'all.